Hello, everyone. Welcome to my show, Ornaments Here. I'm your host, Francine Crawford, and today we have a special guest. We have Miss Shari Ross, and she is a senior living specialist. She's also an author and a speaker, and we'd like to give some information about all the things that she does. So let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Shari. How are you today?
I'm great, Francine. Thanks so much for having me here. I'm really excited to speak with you about all this stuff. So thank you.
Yeah, you do a lot of stuff. It's so great that you do a lot of stuff for seniors. So let's get started. Just kind of tell me a little bit about yourself and how your career with seniors and working with seniors started.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a very roundabout pathway. Not if you had asked me in my 20s, that I'd be working with senior living with this industry. Then I would have probably laughed. Like, what are you talking about? I grew up in the theater world as an actress and went to NYU Tisch School of the Arts and was, doing all that entertainment industry kind of acting career for a while, and then ended up settling down, having a couple kids, kind of left that career behind. And when I wanted to restart working again, I went into pharmaceutical sales. And one of the medications I've sold was called Namenda, which is for Alzheimer's. And so that kind of opened my eyes to this whole world of neurology and memory loss and dementia, which basically led me to working at a memory care community as a salesperson, right? Yeah. And that just completely blew my mind. I mean, being around all these residents with dementia of all different kinds and working with families who were now dealing with their loved ones having dementia, it was just a really eye-opening experience, which then led me into the whole entire senior living world of everything from independent living, assisted living, and memory care, as a senior living specialist. And again, working with hundreds and hundreds of families who would come in just panic stricken and exhausted and wondering what to do with their loved one, and not really having a lot of information, because why would you? Right? I mean, if you haven't dealt with this in your life before with anybody, you're not going to have the information. You're not going to really be readily looking for it. That makes sense, right? I've had people who told me they've driven by the community I worked at, thousands of times on their way to work, never noticed it, but now they see it every single day because now their parent needs it, right?
Okay, so tell us a little bit about this senior living made simple, because you're working directly with seniors and family members, right? And
I am.
You use this book and workbook.
Yes.
Good deal.
So I created it just to give, to me, it's basic information. To others, it's like things they've never heard of before, right? Because I'd see it on a daily basis. But it is the book and the workbook basically walk you through every aspect of senior living. For example, when is it time for a parent or a loved one to go to senior living? What are the red flags that you might see that would spur on a conversation about it? How do you have a conversation with a loved one? Because it's oftentimes very difficult. What to look for at a community? What types of communities are there? What's out there? To go to, because there's so many different types of communities. We used to think of it just as a nursing home. It's not that. I call it community because it is where you are, with other people. And also it's a lot less scary sounding, and clinical sounding than like a facility. Yeah. Or a nursing home or an old folks home. I don't do those words because I just think it's scary sounding. So let's call it a community. But there's this huge range of communities out there. So people don't know about this. So I wanted to give them that information. And then just all the other things that go along with it. How to actually, downsize, how to move, what to bring, what to do, or what to expect in your first week and second week and third week and fourth week of living in a community, how to engage with your loved one once they're there. So all of these things I wrote about, but I wrote about it in a very funny, uplifting way, using stories of things that I've seen, and just talking in the book as if I'm having a conversation with my girlfriend over coffee or wine. I wanted it to be relatable, an
Right.
easy read, but with all the information. The workbook kind of just spurs off that and gives you a whole bunch of checklists and journal prompts, things so that you can actually put these ideas and information into action.
Mhm.
Um, and the book it's called Simple, a living senior living made simple, because simple is kind of an acronym. Each letter of simple stands for a word that is sort of a framework of how to go about figuring out senior living for your loved one. So it's really informative in that way.
Okay, great, great. So let me ask you, is there anything that's personal that motivated you or influenced you to kind of go into this role or do these and work with seniors? Do you have any personal experience?
I do. So there's a few things. So first of all, when I was young, or what actually I'll call it high school, I spent a couple summers in high school at my grandparents' home. And I worked at a summer stock theater in the town. And living with my grandparents and then working in this theater where all the patrons were senior citizens, I started just kind of forming a kinship, I guess you could say, with seniors. I didn't realize this until way down the road now in my career now, how maybe I was affected by that time in my life. I just enjoyed being around seniors. I loved hearing stories and just I related to them for some reason. But then when I was right around that age too, I had a grandmother, my other grandmother, who I wasn't as close with. I didn't really spend a lot of time with her, but she did have Alzheimer's. And so I noticed, as a young person, how my family kind of reacted in her presence and what they did when she continued to repeat herself and tell the same stories and lose things all the time in the house. And I noticed how my parents kind of felt tense and they tried to shield me a little bit from it and didn't really tell me a lot. But I learned from them how they sort of went with it. You know what I mean? They went with the flow of what she was saying, not argue with her, not kind of, nitpick. It's just, you go with it because that's one of the big rules about dementia. Don't argue. Just let them live in their world. So that was one other major thing for me. But then more recently, past few years, my father-in-law, who lives on the other coast. I'm in California, he's in Florida. But every time I would go visit him, I started to get a little concerned because it was very apparent he was sort of isolating, right? He wasn't driving anymore. So he was not really going anywhere, even though he had the ability to take an Uber. He was kind of just sitting in his house or apartment in the dark, kind of watching TV all day, sort of just physically deteriorating, probably eating, microwave meals every day, not just didn't seem happy, probably was missing medications, not taking care of himself. So I introduced the idea to him of assisted living. And gosh, he's the nicest guy in the world, but he got mad. He was like, no way, I am not leaving my apartment. I'm not going to one of those places and all this stuff. My book talks about how you introduce the idea of assisted living slowly and carefully, but you have to keep on kind of mentioning it and kind of letting it blossom in someone's mind because they're not necessarily going to just accept it right away, right? So he did not. And I would talk to him about it here and there, not pushing, just asking him questions to see how he would feel, like in a way of, what do you think, how do you feel? How do you think you'd feel if you had, 3 meals a day cooked for you and all your laundry done for you and your house, your housekeeping all done for you and the ability to just like get a ride wherever you needed, free transportation. So I asked him these questions just to get him to feel it out, think about it. Well, what happened is something that just is a very typical thing. And what ended up happening is he fell in his apartment. He was on the floor for hours. He had broken a hip, couldn't get up. Thankfully, his younger brother, who lives in Florida, also came by because he hadn't heard from him and got him in the hospital. And he ended up in rehab, of course. After that point, my father-in-law actually said to me, now I see what you mean. And now I'm going to have to do this because I obviously can't, I'm not safe at home. So he realized it. Unfortunately, it took that crisis for that to happen, which is a very common thing, unfortunately. But yeah, he went into assisted living and it was a beautiful community. And the moral of the story is about, a couple months later, I went to visit him. Different person. He was, oh my goodness, he looked 10 years younger. He seemed a lot more clear-headed. He was moving. He was taking a chair yoga class, which is like not something I would have predicted. He was making friends. He was playing cards. He was taking their transportation over to Target. And I mean, just a different person and seemed so much happier. So despite the fact that he resisted and resisted, what ended up happening was the best possible thing for him. And this is a very common theme with so many families I've worked with who feel guilt about, having their parents go to a community. But in the end, not only for you as the caregiver or the adult child, now having the ability to just be their daughter or their son or whoever, now you know that your parent or your loved one is safe and having a much better quality of life in a lot of cases.
Okay. So can you walk us through some of the steps of S.I.M.P.L.E, S-I-M-L?
Yeah. For sure. I'll kind of just give you the letter and the word and a short sentence about it because each of those letters could be its own podcast in itself, to be honest. So we'll go with S, which is support. So building a team around you, meaning friends, family, other support groups, geriatric care manager, social worker, whatever is out there where you don't have to feel alone because it's a big job to, take care of your loved one when they're aging. So don't feel like you have to do it alone. Have support. I is for information. So information is about learning your options early, not waiting till you're in the ER at 2 a.m., right? You don't want to make your choices about what's next in that state. So if you can, when your parents, let's say, turn 65, start learning about what's out there. What is the difference between independent living, assisted living, boarding care, memory care? What are all those things? And how does that all work, right? M is matching. Very important. You want to find the right fit for your loved one, right? You don't want to walk into a senior living community and be like, oh, this place has such a beautiful lobby and look at that chandelier and oh, there's a chef and there's this, and it's not about that. It's not, you want something aesthetically pleasing, yes, but each individual person has their own care needs and different levels of needs there. So you need to find a place, whether that be a independent living, assisted living, etc., that matches to what they are needing at that moment and not just go by how it looks. So P is preparation. That is something also you want to do ahead of time. You want to find all the paperwork you're going to need later, which is legal paperwork, your POA documents, make sure there's a POA, make sure that you know what your loved one's desires are, end of life wishes, their advance directives. Have all this in one place. Do they have a long-term care insurance policy? Is it buried in a box in their basement? Go find it, see what the information is there, so that you have everything ready at your fingertips. Because when you do have a family member or loved one go into a senior living community, there's a lot of paperwork that gets done, and you have to have all that stuff prepared. Yes, and when I said POA, sorry if I said it in initials, it's power of attorney. Make sure you know who your loved one's power of attorney is for both medical and financial. So you know who's handling everything in case that they cannot. Okay, moving on to L, letting go. This is a twofold letter. So on one side, it's about letting go of your guilt. Easier said than done, but you cannot feel guilty about what your choices are. You have to make decisions sometimes for your loved ones that I know are going to wonder, oh my God, am I doing the right thing? Is it going to hurt them? Are they going to be sad? Is this the right, move? And you're going to feel guilty about it. And you're going to feel guilty about what you feel like you can't do for them. Let it go, because you can't do everything, especially if you're in the sandwich generation, you're taking care of your kids and your career, and now you've got aging parents. You're not Superwoman. You can't be expected to do everything. So let go. Know that what you're doing is the best thing you can do, right? The other half of letting go is letting go of possessions. When you move to a community, a senior living, situation, you oftentimes, you can't bring your full set of china or your antique table that you've had for 50 years or your house itself, right? You're leaving your home. And it's so hard, especially as a senior, to let go of all that stuff, right? It's like it's a part of you. It's attached to you. So learning to just let go of that and know that you're going to be, replacing it with other things, but that it's just things. It's not your quality of life. It's not your connection with other people, which is really what senior living communities are all about. And then finally, E is for engagement. So engagement is once a loved one is in a community, focusing on their purpose and connection to others and their quality of life, making sure that it's not just about meals and medications. It's about, continued learning, continued socialization, exercise, just being as healthy as possible and just getting as much as you can out of life. Even if you're in your fourth quarter there, you can still have a wonderful quality of life. Doesn't end just because you're now in a senior living community. You're not sitting there waiting to die. You're living, and you can still live.
Okay. So what are some of the common misconceptions that families have when planning senior care?
Yeah, so there's a few. I mean, one we talked about already, which is just the verbiage, like what we call senior living is not just, we can't like lump it into nursing home, right? It's not. It's senior living community. It's an apartment. It's not an old folks home. So get rid of that conception of what, it used to maybe be called and give it more of a friendly name. So that's one thing. Another thing is that, and a big thing, is that moving to a senior living community means losing independence. It's so the opposite. I've seen it happen again and again where seniors regain more independence than they had before when they were living in their own home. Now they're not relying on their adult children maybe for rides everywhere or for help with meals or for reminders about medication. Now you have the ability to kind of have everything at your fingertips. You need to go to the salon, just take the elevator upstairs. If you want to hang out and play cards with some friends, go down the hallway to the little rec room. You need to go to the gym, go down to the little gym in the community. So everything's kind of usually there for you.
Things are accessible to you. So what should families look for, like red flags that they should look for when they're looking in the communities?
Yes, there's a lot. I have a much more full list in my book, in the workbook, but I can give you a few important ones. So when you're touring communities, don't just look at the chandeliers and the paint color. You want to pay attention to One, you want to pay attention to staff interactions. Okay, so watching the staff, do they know the residents' names? Do they look rushed or disengaged? Pay attention to what the staff looks like, and also the turnover. Find out how long the staff there is staying on their jobs. If there's a high turnover, you know that there's issues, right? um, Engagement is a big one, like I mentioned in the S.I.M.P.L.E acronym. Are the residents, when you go into a community, are they just sitting around, looking like they're waiting to die? I mean, are they just sitting in front of a TV? Or are there actual activities and engagement happening? And double check that, because sometimes there's a big, beautiful calendar up on the wall with all these great activities, but are they actually happening? So observe and maybe attend some of the activities, making sure that they're actually quality things that they're doing at this community. Another big one, when you walk into a community, look at it with your nose. I say that because there's a lot of smells that happen, right? But if go to a community and you're smelling some interesting odors and overall it's just not looking very clean, that's a big red flag. So make sure it's smelling nice and not just like fresh baked cookies in the lobby, because you can walk past the cookies to the elevator bank or to the great room, and there could be some really bad smells that they're not being covered up now by the smell of the cookies. So just kind of investigate that. Another huge one is meals. So sit down when you go to a community, sit down and have lunch. They will usually always let you do that. And so you want to taste the food. Is it appetizing? Does it look good? Does it taste good? Do the residents seem to like it? Are they happy? Chat them up, chat the residents up, see what they think. If they will astoundingly, come up to you and tell you how much they love where they live, or they might be like, this place sucks. And it'll give you a pretty clear picture if it's going to be a good place for your loved one.
Can you talk a little bit about navigating memory care places and what's the difference tonight?
Yeah, so there's some communities that are just memory care communities. That's all they have there. I worked for one where it was just like an open floor plan. It was like a big square so that residents could just kind of freely walk around and roam. And, the front door obviously is locked, but they can get around and feel like they're free. It's designed specifically for people with dementia, everything from very specific staff training. So staff that understands how to redirect and how to interact with people with dementia. It's very specific. So make sure that the staff is well trained. And then the building layout is typically, very specialized. The secured doors, there's sometimes color-coded hallways. It's a smaller, kind of calmer environment meant to reduce confusion. And there's very specific activities they're geared towards purpose and engagement. It's things like music therapy, art therapy, sometimes even dog therapy or pet therapy. There's sensory programs, because sometimes someone with dementia, maybe they can't verbalize things, but they're still able to touch and do tactile activities, which is so important. And the main thing is, I think that what sets it apart is that there's a big focus, or should be a big focus, on dignity. So in memory care, you're not supposed to just be keeping someone safe. You're really trying to support their identity and their memories and their emotional well-being. And if that means, that they once a long time ago, used to sing, get them in front of a piano and get them to sing again. Singing and music in general is the last memory to go when you have dementia. So even if you are not verbal and you can't speak words, if music comes on and somebody recognizes in their long-term memory that song, they will start singing it. And it's amazing to see.
Well, in this world of technology and electronics, how does that play a part with senior living and helping them or keeping them safe?
Yeah, technology has really come a long way in terms of the senior living and that and the whole way that we act with our senior relatives and loved ones. So today, whether you're in a house, your own home, or in a senior living community, there are things like medication reminders, like electronic reminders. So let's say your mom lives across the country and you want to be sure that they're taking their medications at their home. You can actually see, whether they've taken the medications in a specialized box kind of thing. It's really cool. There's a lot of new like fall detection devices that look like little like cameras, but they actually detect someone's if they are now on the ground, and then it alerts caregivers to come in and help them. There's GPS enabled devices like little pendants or bracelets so that if somebody's walking around, we all, the caregivers know where they are and can find them.
What's one piece of advice that you would give someone who's starting this journey, who's starting to begin to look for senior living for their loved one?
Yeah, it's a big job and it's an emotional job and it's anxiety provoking. I will not deny that. It's not easy no matter what. But here's what I would say. Start small, right? Don't feel like you have to have it all figured out in one day. Take time to tour one community at a time. Don't tour more than one community a day because that can get very overwhelming. And it's hard to remember everything you saw. Even if you've taken notes, there's a vibe to each community. And so just visit one community at a time, download one checklist, have one conversation with your parent or your loved one, because each small step that you take towards this, it makes the next one easier and you gain knowledge as you go. But I think the biggest mistake that I see families make is waiting until a crisis forces their hand. So just starting the process in a tiny way each day kind of gives you a lot more options, right? And I think less panic later on.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
We're all going to get there one day, right? We're all aging. I don't know the statistic, but there's about like something like 10,000 new baby boomers every single day now. It's crazy. There's a lot of people getting old. So this is becoming more and more prevalent. We are living longer, so there is more prevalence of dementia. So get ahead of it, understand your options for both yourself and for your loved one, and don't wait. Don't wait till the second that you need it. Just get prepared ahead of time.
Get prepared. Yeah. And it's like you said with your book, Senior Living Made Simple. S.I.M.P.L.E. For support, information, matching, preparation, letting go, which is very hard, and
I know.
so this is great that you have a book that's set up for this and a workbook for this. So that's great.
Yeah.
Where can you
When I
find?
do Yeah, you can find the book on Amazon.com, BarnesandNobles.com, Walmart.com, Goodreads, anywhere kind of online they sell books. The workbook's only available currently on Amazon.com. You can also get both of those directly from my website, which is seniorlivingmadesimple.com. And then on my website, there's also links where you can sign up for individual one-on-one senior living coaching in case you're in the thick of it and you need a hand or just someone to talk to, or get advice or resources. You can click on my little calendar to schedule a call and get that information.
Oh, okay, okay, that's great. That's great. A lot of different resources. That's really good.
Yeah,
Thank you
absolutely.
so much. Thank you so much for the work you're doing with seniors and helping really family members to, kind of approach that stage with their loved ones. It's a difficult
Yeah,
stage and it's difficult to even get it started. So this is
it
great.
is.
Have some tools to help them to get started. So
Yeah,
much.
I so appreciate you out there spreading the word and getting people educated on all of this. It's a wonderful thing you're doing.
So
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Sherry, and we again, we'll get this out there, and hopefully, people. It's good because when my mom had Alzheimer's, and I had to eventually look for a place, I didn't have any idea how to do that. So,
Oh, so hard. So hard.
thank you. So I'm glad
Yeah.
to have met you, and I'm glad that you're doing this because I know that it's needed.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right.
All right, thank you. Take care.
You take care.